Okay, I'm live. It's Monday, September 9th, and just gonna go over the markets for you in the morning. So right now I'm looking at the QQQ, and we can see we can see where it closed really, and where it closed over the week or last week. It closed right below the baseline and the conversion line up there of the Ichimoku. And if we put on the SMAs there too, you can see that the 50-week still sits down 529. So is it possible to go back down there and retest that? Of course, yes, it's possible, right? So we'll just go to the daily chart next, and we're going to just zoom in here, and we're going to look at what's really happening. And the daily chart is also showing a picture here, right? That pre-market price is 452. It's coming on up, but maybe 454, 455, that zone could be resistance and it could just roll over again. So whatever kind of optimistic pre-market there is, I think it might be short-lived, at least just for today, just because it's approaching that resistance zone and not too sure if it's ready to break out yet. So we got to just have a little bit more patience, I think, because yes, it's a good pre-market, but again, it's approaching resistance at 454, then up here maybe at 456, right? So any kind of optimism right now could easily get faded just to go back down to lower 440s or high 430s. So we got to keep that in mind for the QQQs, that good pre-market doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a good trading day. So we got to understand that it is approaching that daily resistance pretty quickly, right? And well, if it goes above, like if it starts to get into the cloud and whatnot, then I might change my tune. But until then, everything above is going to be resistance for the QQQ. And then on the SPY here, we are looking like something similar, really, right? But a little bit better, right? Looking a little bit more optimistic for the SPY than the QQQ, mainly because the candle's going to open right here, right around there, and that's going to be around like 544 currently, right? And that'll be still the top of the cloud, right? But at the same time, the higher it goes, the more resistance it's going to run into around that 549 up there, maybe even 550 zone. And I think the more days to come this week, the cloud gets lower and lower, and that combines with the 100-day moving average moving up as well. Then you got the baseline there, so you have like a lot of signs saying I think it still wants to go lower and retest support. Right, even if it comes up to the 550s here, I think it could roll over and then continue lower down towards that 537 level, the 540 level. Right. So we just got to be cautious with these pre-market moves. I think they can sustain maybe for today, maybe even tomorrow, but I think in the coming days this week, I think the possibility of just going back to retest support becomes greater and greater. So we'll take it day by day, and of course, if the days keep breaking resistance, then we'll have to change our tune. But until then, I think there's still lots of resistance above, and things could possibly continue to go back down to test that support, right? And let's see here. We'll go to the IWM. Check that out. Happy morning, Jules. And with the IWM, it held that support perfectly, right? And the pre-market is up a little bit. So I can see a case where it wants to go back up and test some resistance above, maybe like 210, maybe 212 up there. But as long as this 100 holds around 207, maybe there's no need to go back to 202. But we're going to keep an eye on that 207 throughout the week just to see if it can hold strong. And if it can't, then maybe the low 200s is going to be the target after all. But this is still maintaining strength, and it's not up too much pre-market. So I think it could just be in this range possibly for a couple days from 207 up to maybe 212, 213 or so. And let's go take a look at Tesla pre-market here. And here we go, Tesla. So it's right now 216. That's pretty good, right? 216.58. So support was technically like around 208 on the daily candle, but it decided to just go up a little bit pre-market. So as you can see from just this picture here, that if it gets up back to 219 or even 218, that's going to run into some resistance and possibly could get rejected to maybe roll back over and maybe retest some support below. So going back to that weekly cloud that I mentioned on my Tesla recap video. Good morning, Mark. That I mentioned on my recap video on Friday. I mentioned that the candle's basically going to open right up here for next week. And this still gives it free range, just like last week, to go up all the way up to the 226 zone, all the way down to maybe 205, maybe even 202, 201. It has a big range that it can go. And all of this down here is support. And all of this up here is resistance. And it really starts on the daily chart around 219, 218, like right around there, right? So is this really a great open? I mean, it's better than being down, but again, the higher it goes, the more resistance it's going to get into. And ultimately, on the daily chart, I'm not going to get super excited until it gets on the top side of the cloud, because as you can see last week, it failed that, right? It failed getting on top. So if this can maintain the momentum, then get on top maybe by Wednesday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, maybe up there, then I can switch my tone to a little bit more bullish and then possibly can break through these levels above. But until then, anything around 218, 219, 220, 221, that zone is going to be a pretty big resistance zone for Tesla. So I got to see daily closes above that to really start to get excited. But until that happens, it's just stuck in this long range right here. So that's why I was saying Friday that it's no big deal. Everybody was panicking. It was down 19, but in actuality, it was only down 1.5% for the week. So it's just got rejected by resistance and back in the range. And when things are back in the range, you don't need to panic, right? If it started getting below that range, then yeah, you can maybe start to worry a little bit. But just in that range, there's no need to panic at all. And NVIDIA, good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Yes. Yeah, I'll take a look at NVIDIA for you guys. So NVIDIA right here on the weekly chart, you can see that it is below its support now, right? And this is the first weekly candle close below the baseline in a long time. And this one was not a close. It was an open below, but it closed above, right? So that doesn't even count. So to see the last time it closed below that baseline, you would have to go in the past down here, and you would have to continue all the way down, 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 and even continue more, and it would be right here, December of 2022, right? So this is a kind of a big deal. It's kind of a big deal that happened, right? And because of that, now 108 is going to be pretty big resistance, right? Unless it can quickly recover this week and get back above, then that'll just void out that red candle. But until it gets a weekly candle close back above it, it's going to be pretty big resistance. And because of that, we'll go to the daily chart and we'll see what's really happening. And it's also below its support, now resistance. So you can see more confluence of this 108, 109, 110 zone right here. Lots of resistance. So can price go up there today, tomorrow, this week? Yes. But do I expect it to continue more than that? Maybe not. Right. There's a lot of things showing that it might want to go back down to retest the lower levels, maybe the new lows here in the 90s. Right. And I think a good chance of 95, 96 is possible. Right. I really do for NVIDIA. But in the meantime, it can recover a little bit and get back to resistance, and then we'll see how it reacts at resistance. And if it gets rejected, then I would be prepared for the mid 90s or even the low 90s again for NVIDIA. So one step at a time. And I think, yeah, the 90s are definitely on the table. But currently, just let it maybe get back up towards the resistance and then see how it reacts there first. And if it gets an immediate rejection, then we know that probably this 102 level, this 101 level is not going to hold, and it probably wants to go a little bit lower. But in the meantime, it can go up for a couple days and just test this resistance and see how it reacts. Okay, let's look at PDD, Pinduoduo. So Pinduoduo, yeah, same situation here. It lost its support. And when things lose their weekly support, this is looking like it probably wants to go lower, right? We'll see. Like pre-market, it's basically flat. And which kind of low would it be? We can look at a monthly chart just to see. Yeah, the monthly chart kind of tells the story how the bottom of that leading span A of the cloud is going to be your ultimate support, and that looks around like $83. So I think that could be the target now. Like, not only did it lose the weekly support, but it also lost the monthly support last month, and now it went up to test it again to confirm it now as resistance. So I think it's going to be stuck for a while, possibly to go down to 83, possibly go up to maybe 100. Just going to be stuck in that range until it's able to choose a direction. But it looks like losing support on a lot of time frames kind of confirms that it wants to go a little bit lower, back down to maybe the 80s or so. So keep an eye on that. And it's not going to be bullish until it gets back above that 200-day moving average, just to try to test the resistance above. So CPI, we'll do it. When is CPI? I don't even know. Maybe tomorrow, Thursday, who knows? I don't pay attention to news events because I think they don't matter. Maybe Wednesday, okay. Yeah, I think all news events are just irrelevant because price, you can look at the charts to see which direction it kind of wants to go before those news events. And let's see, which moving averages are you using, Matt? I'm using my green is the 50. These are SMAs. My blue is the 100, and the purple is the 200 SMA. And I do use EMAs as well, but that's more for momentum. This is more for support and resistance. And Palantir, yeah, we'll look at Palantir pre-market. So where is it at? 32.91. Yeah, it's looking like the possibility to open in all-time, or not all-time highs, but new highs from here. Looks like it's there, right? It's up 2.5 points. So if we get a close above, what is that, 33.13? Sorry, not close. If there's an open above that, then I think there's a chance to continue higher, right? But if it just opens right at the previous high here, that could be a chance for it to go back and test levels. So we'll just watch how that opens up. We'll see. But yeah, strong momentum for Palantir. I'm going to just go back to my Palantir log scale chart here and just show some things that I see. And where is it going to open? Still underneath the angle. So it has room to go up. I think, as you can see with this angle, it's really been a resistance zone, right? It's been resistance in the past. So even if it does open above, I think it's still going to get some resistance around like the 33.5. But nonetheless, it can still be resistance all the way up in the weeks to come to get to that 35, 36 level by later this month, right? So it doesn't really matter. It still can be resistance. It's fine. But I think I think that's kind of the direction it wants to go, really, towards this arc. And I think maybe we won't see a big rejection until it gets there. So we'll see. We'll take a look at this when it comes, but I think it can slowly just gravitate up to the 35, 36 before any rejection. But it's got to get past this previous high first. So we'll see what happens there, how that develops. So I think it is possible. So we'll just keep an eye on this angle and keep an eye on that $35, $36 level for Palantir. And CLSK. Yeah, CLSK nailed that target on Friday. Nailed the 45-degree angle. And it closed a little bit below, but it's more of like a zone. It's not an exact number. So I really like it there. I like it from there and around how it closed on Friday. And I like it down towards the arc right down here in the 7.5s. So this is a great accumulation zone, really. in my opinion. And I think if it even holds that 45, it really has a potential to go back up and test the resistance above for it. And there is more confirmation right there that 806 is the 100-week moving average, and it held a support. So it's not necessarily going to go back down to that 7.5, right? So I think there's a lot of room to go from here to $10, $11. There's like a big room to go. I think that's really possible to get to $11, maybe even this week or next week, right? So as long as this support holds, I think it's fair to just keep going higher and higher and higher, because there's really no resistance above on the weekly chart, and on the daily chart there's really no resistance above until it gets to like 10.30. So I think at least $10 is in the cards for CLSK in the shorter term. Okay, no more. All right, so what time is it right now? It's 8:16. Yeah, we can look at a few more here. Let's go take a look. How's SMCI doing this morning? Yeah, it's at 390. So we're just going to watch SMCI at that 385 level right there and see if that holds, right? If that holds, it has a really good chance of a good rebound too. Maybe back into the high 400s, low 500s, right? It has that possibility, because on the weekly chart, there's really no resistance. On the daily chart, it still has a chance to get back to 500s, right? Before any kind of rejection. So this is holding support on a week-to-week basis now. So we got to pay attention to that. And that 100 is pretty important too, because you can see it's kind of like the first time it's been tested, right? It's the first time it's been tested back in July of 2022. So that is a good thing. Usually on the first hit, it can hold as a support. And yeah, it looks really good. So I think the chance to get back to 500 is pretty strong for SMCI before it wants to roll over again. So we'll pay attention to that. This could be a good trade. Hey, Matt, are you still in the RIOT trade? Can you share the target levels? Yeah, I like RIOT a lot. Still in it. Let's go to the log scale RIOT chart. So RIOT is, it did close below that angle, but that's fine, right? It's a big demand zone. Like you can see this demand zone right here with all these candles right there. So it's within that range. Like even if it closed below that, it's still a higher low from this low here, right? It's still in the range of all these bodies of the candle. And you can see all those candles are huge, right? This one's 52%. This one was down 16%. Like it's a big range. This is a very volatile stock. So yeah, I can see it just going back above that angle and maintaining it as a support. And I can see on the daily chart, it can have room to go up to maybe 750 or so before any kind of rejection. So that 750 level would be like right around here, right? Right around here before any kind of rejection. But that's enough to get it back above support and enough to maybe maintain it and build a base to go higher and higher. So yeah, I do like right here for a shorter term trade, possibly, maybe even longer. So AVGO. Yeah, so Broadcom, it's looking like it's back at kind of a support zone, right? It didn't really touch the 50 week moving average yet, and it didn't even touch the cloud. And trend in the markets has been like with a lot of things like Bitcoin and others, they're going down towards the cloud. So I think that's the best opportunity, really. So a breakout and a back test of the cloud, wherever that might be. So whether that's right here around 122 or whether that's drifting sideways until it touches it here around current price, I'm not sure, but I don't think it's going to make a move upwards really until it breaks through or until it retests this support zone down here, somewhere down here, right? So I think it has the opportunity to go back up to the 150s and get rejected and go rollover, yes. But I think there's not going to be a move higher until a successful retest of support. So I think right now the short-term momentum is lost, and I think the opportunity to go lower is there because price likes to gravitate to the path of least resistance, and think that is still currently just sideways or maybe even down a little bit. So just be patient with Broadcom. There's really no point in entering here in the middle of a range. NU. Yeah, NU, it looks like maybe around the 50-day moving average would be okay. Possibly, maybe 1312, maybe even a little bit lower, right? It's a really bullish chart on the high time frame, right? It keeps on making higher highs and higher lows. Like except for this low, was a lower low from here, but it regained that with the V bottom very quickly. So yeah, it is a loss of momentum though, so there's no rush. And we know it's a loss of momentum because it lost the conversion line at 1426. So now that's going to be resistance. So there's really no rush now to get into it. Just let price come down and see where it lands, right? If it can build a base on top of the 50, great. If not, then I think the lower levels are even more attractive, right? Maybe around 1235 or so. But yeah, I think minimum it needs to retest the 50 to confirm that as a support. So we'll go from there. But right now, I know it's a loss of momentum because of that 1426 is now resistance. Okay, let's check out ARKK. So ARK held support pretty nicely on Friday on the daily chart. And yeah, I think it has the potential to go back up to the 43.88, maybe $44 up here. But still, same situation as like Tesla on the daily chart that I wanted to see get on top of the cloud, because last time I went up here, it got rejected pretty massively. So I just want to see support hold here and get on top of the cloud, build a base to go higher for ARKK. But yeah, no damage was done here, even on the weekly chart. Even though it closed below the week of the 100, the 100 week moving average, it still maintained my angle down there. So I'm not too worried about this one at all. So we'll keep an eye on this. And yeah, right now 42.17 pre-market. So we'll see if it can get back above that that 100 week moving average as well, around 42.35. And I see a request for Rocket Lab, RKLB. Yeah, it looks like it's a weekly successful backtest, right? Haven't seen this in a while for Rocket Lab. Look at that. Like it held that base for a long time, right? And connected by the cloud and the 100 for a long time. Yeah, that really started after it broke above the 100 right here, and then it maintained it. So yeah, it looks like it's building a base that it wants to go higher, right? You can't really deny this at all. Yeah, it looks like that conversion line on the top of the cloud was a breakout successful backtest. So I think the potential to continue higher is there for Rocket Lab. But is it going to just explode higher? Not really. Simply because I think this one right up here, the previous highs, they're going to get in the way, right? So can price get back up there to the 7.5? Yeah, it certainly could, but it's still going to be some trouble breaking that. So I think it's just in a long, wide range, and that's still a pretty good percentage gain from here, right? Down $5 all the way up to 7.5. But yeah, this is going to be the range, and it even can go back down to the baseline to around 542. But this is looking better and better and better. And as long as this support zone holds for Rocket Lab, then I can see this building a base to go higher and higher and higher. So I think this is a very good first development for Rocket Lab, like getting above the cloud on a weekly cloud and flipping it to a support. And that's looks like it's what in the process of doing. So this is a great development. Even the future cloud is green over here, so this is good. Got to keep an eye on that and make sure this like 570 down to 540 level it holds. And if it does, then I think good times to come for Rocket Labs, but just got to get above this high here. All right, we got 5 minutes before the market opens. Let's quickly look at the indices here. Yeah, no change really. Still up four points. Still going to be getting towards resistance for the QQQ. Still the SPY. It's going to be opening on top of the cloud. Still has room to go down to the bottom of the cloud down here at 537. IWM. Yeah, still is positive pre-market, just a little bit. Support, want to see 207 hold as support. Otherwise, the low 200 be the target, which is still not terrible because it's still going to be a higher low. SMH. All right. Yeah, SMH is really interesting here. I would argue SMH is at support, right? Weekly chart. Yeah. It could have room to go down to 206 again, but it's pretty close to support just because it's getting back above that 200-day moving average right there, the 200-day. So that's looking pretty good. Let's go down a little bit more. Let's go take a look. I want to see how Meta's doing. Yeah, Meta is kind of stuck too. A lot of things are just stuck now. So yeah, the positive price action is fine just because things got sold off a lot on the Friday trade, right? Like that was a big down 3% daily candle for Meta for Friday. And I think it's just stuck right in between resistance there, which is around 505, and support is down here, maybe at 497, all the way down to maybe 492. So a lot of things kind of look like this where support is near and resistance is near too. So can't really get too excited on a Monday like this where things are approaching their resistance and pretty close to their support as well. So let's see here. Let's take a look at in phase, how that's doing pre-market. Yeah, so in phase is down a little bit, but I think what's really important for in phase is going to my linear scale chart here, and it's looking really good. You don't need any indicators at all. Like it's just held that blue angle so perfectly for in phase right there. Then it went up, was resistance for the ARK, and look what it's trying to do, right? It's really, really trying to flip that ARK to a support. And this is why I like it, right? The support has been holding and resistance has been getting less and less and less. And now it's on the top side of things. So I'd like to see that continue for the week and then continue up and higher. So, I mean, if it does trickle down to the ARK and the blue angle again, that's fine too. It's not even that big of a deal. 108 back down to 102, 101. Not a big deal at all. So I think this is setting up for something really, really good pretty soon. Maybe in the weeks or the months to come. I think it'll eventually get back to this orange level, which you can see was also a very important level, which is around 153. So that's what I'm looking at for in phase, and I love how this symmetry looks, even though it's like still not making higher highs. I like a lot. All right, so we got 15 seconds to see how everything opens. Let's go take a look. Okay, and the market is open. Yeah, so Tesla had a pretty good open, right? But just looking at this screen alone, you can see it's still going to be stuck under resistance, just under that 382 for Tesla. NVDA is back above 105. Let's see the miners. Yeah, the miners, they're getting some positive price action. As long as Bitcoin maintains its momentum, I can see these going up too. So we'll see. Well, we'll see. Let's go take a look at Bitcoin too. See, on the weekly chart here, it hit its support perfectly. So it's kind of in a range too. Maybe the daily chart will show us some things. Yeah, so there's going to be resistance there at 56,175. So it has room to go, which means some miners have room to go up as well too. So we're going to keep an eye on that. But yeah, just pay attention to those levels, and you can already see Tesla kind of selling off a little bit. It's just in that range, guys. All Tesla is doing is in that range, and there's really nothing to focus on until it gets above that range, right? And we can even start on that daily chart until it gets on top of the daily cloud right there around 219 on daily candle closes. Then I think you can start to get a little bit more bullish on it. But until then, it's just stuck, right? You can zoom in here. It's just stuck. Just stuck, right? Yeah, Palantir, S&P 500 inclusion. Yeah, it's no big deal, right? It's still under resistance, right? It's still kind of closed right there. And this is my linear scale arc too, not even above that. So I don't really care about the news. I care about the charts, and the charts are saying it's still under resistance, but I think it still has momentum to go up to 35. But we'll see, right? We'll see what happens with that. But there's really no change with anything from Friday to today. It's just still going to be in a range, right? So we're going to just watch those levels and not get too optimistic until the daily resistance levels that I mentioned get broken. So until that happens, yeah, it's just stuck in a range and no excitement from me. So we'll see. But yeah, there goes Palantir trying to break above right now. So we'll keep an eye on that. We'll keep an eye on that, what, 33.03 level, 33.13, the previous high. Yeah. So that's it, guys. And have a good rest of your Monday, and I'll see you guys